Sri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Sri Sadguru Paramatmane Namaha. Sarva Maharshibhyo Namaha. The man who has conquered the evil forces is able to gain introspection that leads to Brahman. 24th Shloka. Yontaha sukontara ramaha tatantarjyotirevayaha sa yogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto digacchati. Substance. He who finds happiness within, delights within, and illuminated within, that sage becoming Brahman attains absolute perfection. Commentary. The highest state of Brahmanubhuti and moksha is mentioned here. It is evident from the previous verses that all outgoing impulses should be restricted, all external pleasures given up, and all sense enjoyments discarded before Brahman is realized. The outgoing mind should be turned inwards. Introspection, exploration of the inner regions of the mind and its source should be cultivated and developed. This is possible only when the windows of the senses are closed and the mind is not in contact with sense objects. If one gives up desires, the impulses of the mind for sensual enjoyments, possessions, and all external things, then will he acquire the inner vision to see the self and abide in it. Finds happiness within means the common man cannot find the happiness of the self within. He imagines that he is deriving happiness from the external objects. The truth is that all happiness is only in the self, and what one thinks as happiness coming from outside is only the reflected happiness, ananda of the self. The pleasures of the senses are short lived and contain in themselves the germs of pain and sorrow. To know this is very difficult, and man errs repeatedly. And yet the time should come when he realizes and foolishness of running after silly sensual pleasures. And then the march back to his virginal state begins. When he finds the inner source of untainted happiness, he never again enters the sense world. Rejoices within. The world is the playground of the senses and the mind, but the wise finds that the so-called enjoyments and pleasures are unreal and short-lived. So he goes into himself and is delighted with the pure joy of the self. There he finds the full realization of all conceivable pleasures in the one joy of the self. He forever delights within himself. Illuminated within. The senses function by the external light of the sun and the moon. Without it, the world is a dark mass, but the sun himself shines by the light of Atma. The whole universe shines by the light of Atma. The eye is illumined by the intellect, and the intellect is illumined by Atma. It is Atma that is revealing itself as the diverse manifestations of light in the universe. Knowing this, the sage is illumined by Atma, the source of all light everywhere. He is light, and light is within. In this way, abandoning all the deluded attachment for the objective world, realizing Atma as the foundation of the bliss and the source of all light, meditating on that, the wise man becomes one with the Brahman and attains moksha. Question. Who can attain Brahman? Answer. He who gives up attachment to the objective world and finds all happiness and light in Atma within attains union with Brahman. The qualities of the sage who has attained the supreme freedom of Brahman are stated. 25th Sloka. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rushahayah Ksheena Kalmashaha Chinnadvaidhayatatmanaha sarvabhuta hite rataha. Substance. Sages whose sins are destroyed, whose dualities are torn asunder, who are self controlled, who rejoice in the well being of others, attain union with Brahman, moksha. Commentary. Who is a Rishi? One who has mastered the senses and mind, who is established in Atma, is a Rishi. It is a position, it is a title that anyone can acquire by tapas. It is something that, like a degree which young students acquire after going through a particular course of study. So, anyone endowed with character and singleness of purpose can obtain the title of a rishi. No one is precluded from making the attempt. The ignorant man of today may become the sage of the future. Constant sadhana transforms the common human being into a sage of wisdom, world honored and one with God Himself. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Four characteristics of the sage are mentioned here. Firstly, whose sins are destroyed. In the course of innumerable births, man may have committed a number of sins prohibited by the Shastras. Example, theft, drunkenness, adultery, murder, etc. So the mind is full of impurities. This should be destroyed by Nishkama Karma, devotion and knowledge. Then the very sinner becomes a sage whose dualities are torn asunder, means the illusion of manifoldness should be transcended by the perception of unity in all things. All doubts would be cleared when the reality is seen as it is. Self controlled. The Rishi has mastered all impulses and powers of the body, mind, and intellect. Perfect self control is the only way to self realization. Rejoicing in the welfare of all beings. What is the effect of Brahmagnana? Universal love. Knowledge in action is love. The sage knows that there is only one supreme self and that is manifesting as the many. The same self that is in him is also in everything. When one realizes this truth, what will be his attitude towards other beings? Love for all. He cannot injure others. He cannot be jealous of others. He has no fear of anything. The others do not exist for him because he has perceived the unity of all beings and he is himself the all. The test of man's wisdom is here. He is full of compassion. His heart overflows with pity. When the sage moves in the world, the one attribute of the purified heart would be love. God is worshipped not only as the all powerful but also as the all merciful. God is love. Great sages have preached and practiced universal love as the highest law of humanity. Question. Who can attain moksha? Answer. Those whose sins are destroyed, whose doubts and dualities are cleared, who have self mastery and universal love, attain moksha. Question. Who is a rishi? Answer. One who possesses the above mentioned quality is a rishi. 26th sloka. कामक्रोध वियुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्म निर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम्. Substance. To the self-controlled sages who are free from desire and wrath, who have controlled their thoughts, who have realized the self, absolute freedom exists on all sides. Commentary. Three important qualities of the sage are mentioned here. First, abandoning of desire and anger, that is, destruction of all tendencies, vasanakshaya. Second, control of mind, that is, destruction of the mind, manonasha. Third, knowledge of Atma, Tatvagnana. The sage with all these three qualities enjoys the bliss of absolute freedom at all times, in all places and under all circumstances. By the knowledge of Atma, all the tendencies, samskaras of the mind are removed and the mind becomes non existent. Moksha is not for the idle and lethargic. Hence, the word yati is used here. Yati means one who sacrifices everything for a great ideal. The ideal of realization is achieved only by a great deal of effort. So, having faith in the words of Shastras and the Guru, let the seeker strive for the speedy realization of the spiritual freedom. Constant meditation on Atma, the pure and perfect, will gradually purify the mind of all its evil samskaras. By knowing firmly that the objective world, Drishya, is unreal, man overcomes the temptation for sense pleasures and the consequent agitations of desire and anger. The mind is impure as it has absorbed all evil tendencies through a number of births in a state of ignorance. The fire of knowledge should burn up these tendencies and purify the mind, which usually functions in tamas and rajas. Pure sattva is to be acquired by knowledge of Atma. The mind is the axle on which the vast machine of samsara rotates endlessly. When the mind moves, the world moves. When the mind is not, the world is not. The impure mind sees the world as a vast battlefield of conflicting passions. The purified mind sees it as Atma. The devotee sees the world as the Lord. So the mind should be purified and kept under control by knowing that which is beyond it. Atmagnana implies a deep inquiry into the real nature of the mind and the intellect, but that he is the one self, the Drik, pure knowledge. The seeker should constantly hold on to the reality, which is pure and changeless, knowing by direct experience that what changes is only the picture of the world. It has already been said that when a man attains Brahmi Sthiti, he does not fall into delusion again. Hence, it is declared that the man who attains Brahma Nirvanam exists in the state of absolute freedom and bliss at all times, in all places, under all circumstances. He is liberated when he holds the body and drops it. He lives always in freedom. Question: who attains Brahma Nirvana? Answer: the man of mind control, free from desire and anger, who has self knowledge, attains moksha. Only men of great sadhana can attain that state. Question: when is he free? Answer: freedom exists for him everywhere and at all times.